Hey everybody, and welcome to another Learn to Digitize video. My name is Sue and I'm a hatch educator, and today we're going to talk about a new stitch, kind of a new stitch, a stitch you can do yourself. I'm sure you recognize it. It has lots of uses, and we're going to call it the Hatch Smash. And through the wonderful benefits of editing, I'm going to bring up this picture. Now let's look at this picture. Now this blanket is it's a baby blanket, and the design is really cool. I did this for a customer, and it would be very, very difficult to embroider any lettering or any design on this blanket with fur on it. It's fake fur and it was quite thick. So this is where the Hatch Smash can come in, and we can make it so that the fur is nicely flattened down. And the idea is, you can see on the blanket that I matched the smash stitching to the blanket so it doesn't really show, but it smashes down that fur and it makes your design look beautiful. It makes it look sharp and clean, and it's a really great thing to use. So let's get started on it. So let's start with some lettering, and let's go here to lettering. I'm going to let's do it this way. So caps, digitizing, made, and there it is. And we're just going to leave it just a regular font. You can use any font or any design. Now there's a couple ways we can do this. The easiest way, and I find the prettiest way, is to simply select everything that you want, and in this case it's just lettering. Let's go to edit objects. Let's scroll right down, and we're going to do create outlines and offsets. We do not want an outline for this one. What we do want is an offset. And what I do is I do, say, 3 of them. And we're going to do it in single run, and we're going to change it after. So it doesn't matter the color, and I'll explain why the 3 in a minute. And what we want, if there's multiple objects, we want this one because we want it all in one. We want that shape of the lettering. So then we go to OK, and we wait a second. And here we are, and we can see 1, 2, 3. Now, if you look at 1, they're all separate, which would be fine. That is absolutely fine. Number 3 is a bit out there, so it's a bit too far out for what I want for this design. And number 1, I'm not going to use. It's okay though, but I'm not going to use it. So once you get it here, so I use number 2, and that is exactly why I did 3. And look, it follows it nicely, a little bit of space. You could bring it in a little bit if you wanted, but this will be fine. Now this is an outline, and we want to change it to fill. So I selected it. I'm going to go to fill, and there we go. All your things come up, and what we want to do is change the spacing of this. Now this is regular tatami, and this would be too thick. And then you're going to put an embroidery over it or the letters over it. We'll move it in a minute. And that would be too thick, and we don't want hockey puck designs, as we say here in Canada, or bulletproof designs, as John says. So what we want to do is lighten the density on it. Now, there's 2 stitch settings. Spacing is the space between the stitches, and that would be the density. The stitch length, and you can see here, I'm just moving it over so you can see here. Right here shows you the spacing. So it's what we're adjusting is the spacing in between each line of stitching, and that equals density. So if you make this number smaller, it's going to make this more dense because it's moving it closer together. So if you make this number bigger, it's going to put more space in between. And you see the little arrows there when I'm off of it. It's going to put more space in between and therefore make it less dense. And think of it that way, and you'll always know which way to go with your numbers. Now the stitch length we're not going to mess with. I recommend just leaving it as the default for most things, but just so you know, the stitch length is the length between the dots here, and that's not what we want. We don't want this to go, the needle penetration to go from here to here, say. That is not the look that we're going for. So we are interested in spacing or density. I'm going to leave it on standard. So this is the standard here, and we want to make it less dense. So we want to make the number higher. So why don't we go 0.8 and see how that looks? And to me, that looks great. We got to do one more thing before we check it out. We do not need underlay. Take it all off. Every little bit of underlay needs to go off. The other thing we need to do is bring up our resequence, and we're going to bring this first. Now, if you see things like this, there might be a whole bunch of them. You need to delete them. It was reading some of the spaces in between, and we don't want those. We don't want those. They're little holes, and we don't need them. So feel free to delete them. We just need our big one, and we need this one. And that is all that there is to it. That looks great. I think I might actually lighten it up. It really depends on what kind of fabric and what you're doing it on. I think I want this a little less dense, so I'm going to try this. And that's still too much. Why don't we try 2 millimeters? I'm way up there. That is more to what we want. I got mixed up on my numbers. It's a bit of a hard day today. Let's click on that. Let's see if 1.5, and we're in millimeters. That would do too. So anywhere between 1.5 and 2 millimeters will work. And that's about how you want it to look. I was way off, but this is the beauty of this, is that you can change it depending on what you need. Now I'm going to be stitching this on a a really thick material, so I want this a little bit more dense but not too much. So I'm going to stick with 150, and that would be fine. And we took the underlay off. So because it's not a one button and you're done thing, we have more stitch control. So this is kind of big for what I want, so let's change it. So what we do here is break apart, and we're going to select this part, and we're going to break apart again. And all I'm going to do is very carefully move this over just a little bit, not a whole lot. And then I'm going to select all 3 pieces, and we are going to do the create outlines, and we're going to stick with the 3 again because I like that. Make sure that's there. At the offset, you can mess around with that. I'm going to leave it for this one because it's always easy just to leave it. And you see that worked a little bit better. Again, I don't like number 3. You could do, I'm going to delete this. You could do exactly like this, and that would be fine. Let's get rid of this little teardrop because we don't need it. So you can choose which way you want. I think for this one, because I moved it closer, I think this would do fine. Or you could have selected number 2. Let's change it to a fill. And let's go down, and we're going to put in the number 2. So 2 millimeters apart. Travel on edge is also very important. Then while these are selected, let's move it up ahead and see how great that looks. See how great that looks. I think that's absolutely fantastic. The density is fine. So that is how you do the hatch smash when you are digitizing designs for thick blankets, something with a high nap. You could even do it on towels, and it makes the lettering or the design or anything look sharp and clear. So that is how it's done here inside Hatch Embroidery. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.